Good morning, good morning, good morning. Listen, um, as you can see on my screen, there's a crazy lawsuit going on over the commission structure for real estate agents. Now, this is something that has been actually in the works for a few years now, and I actually did a post over on my Instagram page about it, where it seemed like a diss, for lack of a better word, for towards buyers agents when it comes to this. This video, basically what I want to do is I want to share my thoughts. So I'm coming to you fresh off of my morning workout. This has been on my mind since I came across this article last night. As you can see here, brokers exploding, agents, brokers torn over commission suit ruling. So here's what happened on Friday. Um, Federal court, I believe it was in Western Missouri is where this is going on. They heard arguments about how the structuring of commissions for real estate agents have been almost misleading, and the costs have been inflated towards sellers. For those of you that don't know, if you're new to real estate, not quite sure how commission splits work, I'll explain it to you. When you take a listing as a listing agent, the seller has to pay all of the real estate commissions. At least that's how it's set up right now. Real estate commissions meaning the when you go to closing, the net proceeds from the buyer's mortgage, cash, however they are paying for their home, the commission portion of that, whether it's anywhere between 5-7%. I've seen it different in different states. Here, the average is right around 5 or 6%. But between 5 and 7% is the average commission right now. That's typically split between the listing agent and the buyer's agent. Now, sellers over the past few years have been really piping up about the fact that when they go to closing and on their net sheet, it shows, depending on the price of the home, it can be upwards of $40, $50, $60,000. You just don't know, right? Depending on the price of the home. So they are saying that they've lost tens of thousands of dollars when selling their home when it comes to net proceeds. And now what this federal court ruling has done is giving them the opportunity to reclaim that money in a class action suit. This is happening in Western Missouri. Now, what I'm here to talk about today is what that awareness will do to the market as a whole, to the real estate market as a whole, for real estate agents and brokers. I've long misunderstood for myself. I never understood what the reasoning was behind the seller needing to pay the buyer side commission. Now, I've heard different arguments on this, and this is no diss for buyers agents because it's going to change for both sides of the transaction. Okay. I've heard different arguments for this because in all reality, a buyer goes, gets a mortgage. That money from the buyer is paying all the fees at closing. It's paying for the home, and then whatever the seller owes on their mortgage, or if they owe it free and clear, or whatever fees or everything like that, comes out of that money coming from the mortgage and coming from the buyer. So if we get super, super technical about this, the buyer is technically paying all the fees when it comes down to closing. However, the perception on the net sheet shows that commissions are a debit to the seller at closing. That's how it comes out on the net sheet. And so when we look at that and when we see that, it becomes an issue. Now, real estate is one of the only industries where your client can actually see what you're making. And I've been at I've been at closings and actually had situations where sellers have asked me to throw in some of my commission because they almost feel like the commission or the money that we make is too much, especially if a house sells in an hour or a day, 2 hours, however long it takes in a market like this. I've never understood why sitting down at the table when you're negotiating with your sellers and taking a closing, it's always been hard for me to explain the reason why sellers have to pay that buyer side commission. Now, why is this going to change things? This awareness will now make it so that sellers now know when you sit down, it'll probably end up being something that's optional, but will widely be accepted and adopted, that sellers will no longer want to pay out from their pocket, from their net proceeds, the buyer side commission. Now, what does that mean for buyer's agents? Buyer's agents now will need to approach their clients differently because for a long time, I've done it before in the past. I have said that technically to a buyer, our services are free because everything is paid by the seller. That's been a way that people have marketed themselves as buyer's agents. However, as this comes around, and as this, if this really gains traction, and people start to do this, people start to see that this is something that's possible. They no longer have to pay that out, and it becomes more widely accepted. Buyer's agents will now have to negotiate with their clients or potential clients that fee that they are going to charge in order to help them find a home. And at closing, whether that can be wrapped into mortgages or if that can be paid directly out of pocket, right up front, whatever that may be, is going to have to be a change in the way that business is done. For listing agents, what's going to happen now is you will have to determine what is your fee going to be. No longer will it be this 5% because we're going to be splitting 2.5 or 2.3 and 2.7, whatever it may be, whatever that split is. No longer will it be that. Now, as this gains traction, and if it does, a seller's agent will have to determine whether or not are they going to be charging that percentage. Is it going to be a flat fee? Now you're truly being paid for the services you provide, which is marketing the home. Will it be easier to get listings? Not necessarily, because sellers are right now, because I've built my business solely around for sale by owners for so long, sellers are willing to pay a 2.5% fee to a buyer's agent to bring them a buyer. Now you will have to kind of flip the script, right? And if 2.5, 2.7, whatever that average is in your area, I'm always only speaking from how it is here in Minnesota. Now you'll have to determine whether or not your fee is going to be that 2%, 2.5%, and you'll have to discuss with your sellers and convince your sellers that your services are valuable to them. Likewise, on the buyer side, it's going to change things. It's going to be harder to get a buyer to understand that if this becomes a fee that can be wrapped into a mortgage, it will likely decrease the amount of money that they can spend on the actual home. Similar to a buyer purchasing a home in an association, right? Association dues are considered a debt. And so typically, if a buyer is approved for a $400,000 home, the association dues are $500-$600 a month. It's going to adjust what they can actually afford if they're purchasing an association. So now your fee is going to come into play there if it's something that can be wrapped into a mortgage as a buyer's agent. And that's going to impact how much they can afford. Now, what do you think a buyer is going to do when that happens? It's highly likely they're going to go at it on their own. And what this is going to do is this is going to make portals like the Zillows, the Trulias, the Realtor.com, any other places that buyers are now looking, consumers are now looking in home shopping, will make it that much easier and make it that much more incentivized for them to go to that site, reach out directly to the listing agent, and attempt to purchase the home, schedule the showing, go look at the home, submit their offers, and do things like that. So it's going to change so many ways that we do business. Will it be easier? I don't know. Will it be harder to get listings? I don't know. I think it's going to be the same challenges that we have now. I think this is definitely going to take some time to catch traction, but the awareness of this now is going to catch on pretty fast because this has been something that's been in the front of sellers' minds for quite some time. Now, when you first question that I always get when I sit down with a seller, or if I'm cold calling or door knocking and somebody's even interested in selling, is what is your commission? And when I tell them what my commission is, I charge a 5% commission split between myself and the buyer's agent. A lot of times they do not understand why they're paying that buyer's agent fee. So this is going to be something that changes. My business has actually been set up in order to handle this change. And I think there's different ways that we'll be able to handle this. Number one, prospecting, right? Continue to prospect, continue to call and talk to people about buying and selling homes. I'll continue to focus your efforts on working with more sellers, because sellers are now going to be the ones that will be more incentivized to pay somebody with the expert knowledge to price a home the right way and actually expose the home to the market, which means paying for all the marketing, right? Anything that you do for marketing, now it's time to tighten that up and put it in a package so that you can market that as your widget, so to speak, when you go out and speak to sellers. For buyers, it's going to be a little bit different. You're going to have to sit down and it's truly going to be a consultation. You're going to know the market, become that expert for them. And who knows, retainer fees may come back into play. Whatever that fee is that you would charge to a seller in order to find them a home, you have to find what that value is, because it's going to start putting downward pressure on the fees that we charge on both sides. And so we need to figure out what that's going to be. All I can say is continue to get out there and prospect, be active, continue to go out there and look for sellers and work with sellers. And as this catches traction, you'll be able to just transition directly into that, because the one who's going to win is the one holding the listings, because you'll always have people that will come to you to purchase that home. That's just the way it is. We're going to go back. I feel like it's going to take us back to kind of an old school way of doing business, where brokers did the majority of the entire transaction. Once upon a time, there was no buyer's agency. Will buyer's agency go away? I'm not sure. I'm just not sure. Buyer's agency might go away because of this, just because of the fact that if lenders allow a buyer to filter in their commissions, what commission they're paying out to a buyer's agent into the mortgage, it will impact how much they can afford, how much they can actually get approved for the loan for. And that's going to change their decision making. Okay. So that's just something to be aware of as this gains traction. I feel like it will. This was just a decision that was made on Friday, and brokers are talking about it. This that I'm showing you right now, this is on Inman. Inman is a pretty good authority on real estate news, and I've been watching this for a few years, trying to understand what exactly it is that's going on. And for it to come to this, I'm not actually surprised. And to be honest, I'm actually looking forward to the change that this might bring. But anyway, I've rambled on long enough. Appreciate you for watching this. Obviously it's me. I'm Blake Wallace, owner, principal broker of Wallace Realty Group. If you have any questions, if you like this video, if you have any thoughts, drop them down in the comments. Do me a favor. I definitely want to hear what your thoughts are. Drop them down on the comments. If you're watching this replay, let me know what your thoughts are on this and what you will do should this change start to happen. Who knows how fast it will? Will it happen? I do think something different is going to change, but let me know what you think. And of course, like this video, subscribe to my channel to see more content. I always love having you watching. Appreciate y'all.